with the rider as NNPC fails to remit funds to the government. Oil marketers 550, Jet A1 price not sustainable. OPEC, Nigerian accounts for 400,000 BPD match shortfall, with the detail on page 6 of the New Telegraph newspaper. And the court to INEC AGF show cause why Emefiele shouldn't contest, with hearing for May 12th. And on 2023 presidency, Ohanaeze flood committee to woo emirs, obas for zone support. We were committing blunders at National Assembly until ICANN intervened. This is coming from Ulu Ibadan. And still on 2023, Nigeria doesn't need part-time president, says Saraki. And he meets with Obasanjo. We can read more of that story on page 3 of the New Telegraph. And the screaming story here, we have ASU 3-month strike extension. NAS threatening to shuttle party primaries blockage of the National Assembly. Says the federal government has declared war on varsity students to occupy the federal road beginning today. May shut down from May 14. Put state chapter on alert. Call on NLC, TUC, and civil society support. Varsities to get 642 million naira, ploys 396 million naira, COs is at 447 million naira each. This is a third phone. And ASUP to embark on strike over the government inability to implement the 2021 part. Detail of that can be found on page 5, 8, and 30. And it's really a sad one to see, because while looking at, I think yesterday was actually the end of the warning strike. And the students were like, if that is just a warning strike, then what will now happen with the extension that's now 3 months? And it's really a sad one, because just like I said yesterday, let's take a look at the presidential candidate that have picked up their nomination form. They're over 20-something, and I think in APC, there are about 31 or so of them that actually come out to show their interest in the presidency. And if over 20-something people or persons have actually picked up this nomination form, which each goes for 100 million naira. So you could calculate how much did APC make with that nomination form? Over billions, 2-point-something billion, or almost 3. Now, let's take a look at the amount that ASU is demanding. It's nothing compared to this money that each person is going to throw away for just a nomination form. They are not even sure if you are going to actually win or not. Because as far as I'm concerned, this looks more like a gambling, because you're not even certain. It seems as if it's just a money that just spare. You don't have actually something important to do with that money. But I'm not throwing blame on anybody. The point I'm trying to raise here is the fact that we need to do something. We're already having the National Association of Students coming out to say, I think since last 2 weeks or so, they came out to say that they are going to stop the primaries if something is not being done. And this doesn't look very beautiful on the nation, looking at the fact that primary is supposed to start May. Already the timetable has said, and if anything should hamper with this primary, definitely is going to affect the forthcoming 2023 election. So we are calling on the government to please give a pleading ear to what ASU is asking for. The money they're asking for, I believe that we have that funds. Take a look at the deplicated, or look at the buildings, the structures we're having. It's nothing to write home about. Take a look at the labs our medical students are using. It's nothing to write home about. You need to take a look at some of the public universities in the country. It's really something to cry about. And yet it's the same us that will send our kids outside the country to public university. Why don't we do something about fixing our own structures here? And we keep saying that education is like the mirror of any nation. If you fail to fix that sector, every other sector is just a matter of time before it will fall down. So I'm just hoping that with what NAS actually threatening already, they say they have threatened the airport, they are going to National Assembly, and we don't want the issue of when the hashtag NSAS, what happens, some students lost their life, especially youth lost their life as a result of that. So just hope that it won't get to that point. The government will rise up, and we are even seeking, if possible, there should be a presidential intervention in this thing, because I think it's beyond the Senate is beyond it. Even the ministers, it seems as if they don't have a way out of this. So if the president can even come forth and see what he can do about it, I think really has to really, appreciate them.
Yes, Sele, I find it very difficult to understand what the federal government is saying, that they will declare war on varsity students, because students are protesting for their rights. We had where Uniben students protested like for 3 days on the issue of ASU at the federal government for them to have a lasting solution to the ASU strike, for students to go back to school. It's not a bad thing for people to come out to protest for their rights to be granted unto them. We have the right to education, and these educations are not even free education. You are paying for it. So why having all this hustle and tussle even in your education, like a bridge in your education? Students have the right to come out and protest. And I keep on saying, if you are threatened by the protest of students, then do the right thing. Just as you said, the educational sector is the mirror of the society, is the mirror of a good government, is the mirror of a good country. And you can see that that mirror in our country is already broken, because with this issue now, look at the extension by 3 months. What is the fate of the students? They are really going through a whole lot, Sele. You need to see these students at home. You need to see the countenance on their faces. They are not finding it funny. Just this week, my brother, who is part of those people who are at home concerning this ASU strike, he said he saw some youths dancing on Friday because they celebrated the cultural day. He said, what are they dancing about? Why are they happy? They've been at home, so why go out to celebrate all these things? They need to air their voice to the government, for the government to speedily intervene in this issue. Imagine 3 months of their time again at home, like extra 2 months after the warning strike at home, 5 months at home, and you know that 5 months, you could have been done with a session and going to another session. These students have already planned their life on, okay, how after graduation, this is what I want to do. This is like a year I will graduate. Then I can do this before going for my service. Like, they've planned everything. This is our country. You need to plan. And you can imagine that this plan is being disrupted by this strike. And when students come out to protest, it becomes another thing. We just hope that this protest will not turn to the hashtag #EndSARS protest, because they have the right to protest. We see that even in foreign nations will look up to, they come out to protest when things are not done the right way. But if you don't want people to come out and protest, then do something. We're just hopeful, and we are pleading, because when it's beyond us, we have to plead. We need to plead that there should be a lasting solution to this strike, so that students can go back to school and continue with their activities. These people want to school. They want to go to school. Education is very important. We should not erase this from the life of the students. We should not deny them this access to education. Something needs to be done about it. If the ministry that are concerned, the ministry that need to look into all this, if they can come out and do something about it. I keep on saying they are carried away by this primary election. Parents are tired. Parents are tired of, like, you understand, Sele? All these things are just are plans. Parents have planned, okay, I'll pay, this is the time my son or my daughter will be done with school. Then I can face other things. Then imagine this extension in the life of this parent and even the student. We need to do something about it for the student to go back to school and continue with their activities.
Of course, Tosin. We're still on the New Telegraph. We have Rupee. 8 years ago, I doubt if we can get good democracy. You can read more of that on page 9. And on APC, northern groups buy APC forms for Jonathan. Lawan, Silva, Ayade joined the race. Kalu withdraws back Senate president. We can't defeat PDP with presidential candidate from the South. This is coming from the APC board members. You can read more of that story on page 5, 6, and 30. And the last study here, we say study ties obesity to higher risks of broken bones in women. And if you're interested in that study, you can look it up on page 8 of the New Telegraph. And that's all from the New Telegraph.
Thank you, Sele. Moving to Leadership newspaper, 500 billion naira demand. Prepare for worst fuel scarcity, Ipman tells Nigerians. And just yesterday we saw the looming scarcity in Abuja and environs, and today again we have it that this scarcity have extended to Kogi State. So we can see that, and now Pdp Presidential Aspirants is saying prepare for worst fuel scarcity telling Nigerians. For how long we'll continue to go about it? Sele, we're not relaxed with the issue we had from the beginning of this year with adulterated fuel, which affected so many things, down to even the transportation fare and even food prices in the market. We have the issue of hunger now, the scarcity of food, and now we are seeing this fuel scarcity. I know when the president came out to apologize to Nigerians concerning the issue that was ongoing concerning the adulterated fuel and even the scarcity, because we had long queues in the 36 states, including the FCT. I said it on this station. I said, I just hope that it won't just end in apologizing. Something should be done. And we saw that later on, the queues were no longer in existence. There was petroleum, and people were availability of petroleum for people. And now we can see that the scarcity is showing forth its face again. We don't need to do like a short-term issue. Addressing issues for short term, it should go a long way. If we are going to address this issue, we should address it and face another thing other than doing it for short terms. Just within 2 months now, we are seeing the scarcity coming up again, and we know that this scarcity, so many people hide under the scarcity to inflate prices. And who are the ones being affected? The common man are the ones being affected, because if prices are inflated in this our country, it don't come down any longer. We saw the issue of the transportation fare that was increased, and up to date, even when the petroleum was available, they did not bring down those prices. The common man had to be affected with all these things, and now we are seeing this issue of fuel scarcity coming up in the country. We need to address this issue. We just hope that the NNPC boss, that's the Mele Kyari, the president also, since he's the Minister of Petroleum, and even those that are affected in this issue, those that their jurisdiction has to do with the NNPC and IPMAN, they should do something about it, because transportation, petroleum need to be available, not just for transports alone. It even goes down to businesses. Businesses are affected with this. We see the electricity scarcity. People have to resort to using generators at home, and with all this, how do you expect people to run their life? We just hope that something will be done about this. We don't want issue of scarcity to show forth its face again. We're facing issue of insecurity. We have this ASU strike. There are some students who are skilled. They are trying to help themselves, keep themselves busy with their skills, and they need to run power with the petroleum. Then this coming forth is something discouraging to these people. We need to encourage small businesses. We need to encourage people who are into different kind of businesses, legal businesses. We don't want issue of electricity and even petroleum to show forth its face any longer. And here, insurgency may not last beyond May 2023. And this is coming from the military, and we are hopeful that it won't last beyond May 2023. Mieti Allah questions spending of cattle ranch fund by states. Details can be found in page 7 of the Leadership newspaper. Pension funds placement in banks hit 2.14 trillion naira. Sokoto Zamfara student barred from WAEC exams over non-payment of fees. ASU extends strike by 3 months. ASUP down tools tomorrow. The big story on 2023 presidency, Jonathan's picture with APC chairman Adamu sparks membership controversy as ex-president rejects APC nomination form from northern groups. Lawan Ayade Silva picks form, Bakari declares. Kalu withdraws, backs Lawan, and numbers of APC presidential aspirant now 27. And we have a caption, so Goodluck Jonathan has dumped the opposition PDP and now member of our great party, the All Progressive Congress, APC, says Buhari's aide, Bashir Ahmed. Goodluck Jonathan is not a member of APC. For him to be a member of the party, he must be registered at the polling unit and ward in Bayelsa. To be the best of my knowledge, his name is not an APC register, Bayelsa APC chairman Barrister Dailies Otioto says. And while we appreciate the overwhelming request by a cross-section of Nigerians for Dr. Jonathan to make himself available for the 2023 presidential election, must wish to state that he has not in any way committed himself to this request, Jonathan aide Ikechukwu Eze says. And no, we know that the speculation today was that Goodluck Jonathan, the former president of Nigeria, has picked the form for the APC presidential position. And the former president said it's an insult to pick a form without his consent. And we know that this form was picked by some northern group, which is the Mieti Allah Cattle Herders group. They picked this 100 million presidential form for the president, and he's saying it's an insult. So the issue is still sketchy up to date. We've not known if he's going to go by this party, go with this presidential form. But sadly, I'll say there's no smoke without fire. This did not start from today. There've been issues coming up, speculations coming up that the president, the party, that's APC, wants the president to pick the form and stand as a presidential flag bearer for APC come 2023 election. And now we can see that the form is being purchased, but the ex-president is saying he's not in game for the presidential election. But we'll just keep our fingers crossed, and we'll bring back details to our audience on the outcome of this. And that's all on the Leadership newspaper.
Thank you, Tosin. Let's take a look at the Voice of Liberty. Kaduna train attack. Don't resume train service until victims are rescued. Family members charge the NRC 42 days alter. And on 2023, you won't be delegates forever. Your children will suffer it if you do not choose right leader. This is coming from Peter Obi, and truly, I have to add my voice to his. It's truly, I've always said that posterity will actually catch up with us if we do not do something about it. What do we leave for our forthcoming generation? I always say this: which flag are we planning to give it to them? Is it truly the green, white, or we are planning to give them a flag that is stained with blood? Whatever decision we as Nigerians decide today is what we'll live with for the next 4 years. And so I think with what Peter will be saying, truly, let us not choose leaders at the end of the day. Our children will cost us. I always say, if you take a look at what is happening, the same leaders that actually benefited from the system are the same people that are not doing anything to maintain it. We're not pointing a finger on anybody, but I think this is the time for each and everyone to go back to his or her closet and see, what can I do in my own capacity? Regardless of what Goodluck Jonathan is saying, whether he comes out in APC, PDP, regardless of the party, I always say here, it's not about the party, it's about the candidate, because parties cannot do anything. The candidates make the parties active. So it's based on what you choose to do, whether you are in whichever party, whether it's opposition or the ruling party. It's based on what do you want to do in that place. At the end of the day, what will people remember you for? Because we'll be remembered for what we've done, whether it's a positive or negative. So I think this should be what we as citizens, especially as youths, because we need to stand up with one voice and say, this is enough is enough. If we're tired of what is happening, then I think we have the right to change the narrative by doing something different entirely to make sure that Nigeria becomes the land of our dreams. And still on the Voice of Liberty, under 2023, Supreme Court has cleared civil servants to participate in politics. Falana reminds the federal government. And ASU have extended strike by 3 months. Still on 2023 presidency, ex-president Jonathan joins race as group buys him the 100 million naira APC form, says he's the best man for the job. A coalition of the northern groups have purchased the All Progressive Congress expression of interest and nomination forms for the former President Goodluck Jonathan to contest for the presidency in the forthcoming 2023 general elections. Alleged attack on members, Mieti Allah threatened legal action against IPOP over attack on cattle in the southeast. Still on insecurity, Buhari not strong as commander-in-chief. This is coming from Wiki, the governor of Rivers. And on the aviation fuel, 1 hour flight could hit 120,000 naira. This is coming from stakeholders. And still under the Kaduna train terror attack, victims countdown to 43 days still in captivity. And just like the members of the families are coming out, the government really needs to do something for these people to be back with their families. Each time I remember the baby that was born there, it brings tears to my eyes. But I actually hope that the government will really look into seeing what they can do to make sure that these people are reunited with their families again after spending quite a number of time in the dens of of the terrorists. And that's all on the Voice of Liberty.
Yes, concerning this train, the families and also those passengers that were attacked, you know that the Kaduna train station said they are going to embark on and start their movement, that's transportation. But the qualification is that before you can be in the train, you must have your NIN. And I keep on saying, I know that there are some people who have been abducted, they had their NIN, they had their NIN. Why can't this NIN be helpful to them in time like this? This is not time for this train station to even start activities, because they need to look out for these people and even look out for ways they can find those people that have been abducted. Nothing is said about these people, and we are not looking out for ways the train station can start working now. Try to rescue those people that have been abducted, because there are people who are taking drugs, there are people who take drugs every day and they are abducted. How do you expect these people to live? You can see the pictures that was released. You can see that these people, even people cannot identify their loved ones because of the way, the problem, the stress, the depression on their faces. And these people are going through a whole lot in such places. So we just hope that the train station, the government, since the families are negotiating with the government and pleading to the government to look out for ways they can free their loved ones. The Chief of Defense Staff is saying the issue of insecurity will not last beyond May 2023, and I just hope that the step is trying to abduct all those people that are in the den of these kidnappers and all this terrorist group. Something should be done about them. Not just this baby. We have another pregnant woman that was abducted. So is it that she have to give birth in such places? So many things people are going through. So we just hope that something will be done and these people will be abducted so they can reunite with their loved ones.
Yeah, thank you.
And on Daily Independent, on Abuja Kaduna train attack, don't resume services until abducted victims are rescued. This is coming from the families, says they are ready to negotiate with terrorists. More trouble for airlines as marketers halt aviation fuel importation. And ASU extends strike by 3 months. Federal government has killed public universities. Parents, activists, others lament. ASU to embark on nationwide strike tomorrow. Ngige says Labour Ministry not employers of lecturers. And on 2023 WAEC, no candidate from Sokoto, Zamfara as exam starts May 16. And on 2023 presidency, Almajiri headers group pick APC nomination form for Jonathan. The same people that said you are not doing it the right way are the same people that are picking forms. So you can see that so many things are ongoing, like on the ground. We just keep our fingers crossed to know the outcome concerning the speculations. Court summons INEC AGF over Emefiele's presidential bid. AMCOM takes over assets of Aeroland Travel over 1.8 billion naira debt. Government bets on subsea cable firms to meet broadband targets. Lawan Silva joined 2023 presidential race, and reps prevail on airlines to continue operations. The picture story here we can see Ladi Adebulu, that's the People Democratic Party governorship candidate for Ogun State, and Abubakar Bukola Saraki, the former Senate president and PDP presidential aspirants, Ola Kukoyi, the PDP chieftain Ogun State, and Leye Odinji, the deputy chairman Ogun PDP, during Saraki's meeting with PDP delegates in Ogun State on Monday. And that's all on the Daily Independent newspaper.
Let's take a look at the Nigerian News Direct recruitment rumor. CAC debunk Opera News publication. Detail of that can be found on page 3. AMCOP takes over asset as Euroland Travels Limited over 1.8 billion naira debt. The aviation fuel not selling at 700 naira per litre. This is coming from Moman, and you can read more of that on page 16 of the Nigerian News Direct. The screaming story here is on 2023. Mixed reaction, trade Jonathan's defection to APC. Purchase of presidential form, with the rider following that story as Lawan Silva Ayadi joined the race. And on 2023 presidency, APC makes U-turn on zoning over fear of losing to the PDP. and that story can be found on page 22. We have my criticism of Wike not driven by personal ambition. This is coming from Dakuku Peter site. And still the story can be found on page 2. We have some picture story here where we can see Lawan with his nomination form that he has picked, and also some construction going on. So you can do well to get the Nigerian News Direct and read any of the stories that is of interest to you.
And on the Punch newspaper, Jet A1, NNPC Airlines agree on 3-month supply at 480 naira per litre. While on refineries probe, Reps grill silver, Kyari today says appearance compulsory. Fuel queues persist in Abuja, petrol sells for 300 naira per litre. And APC rules out imposition groups, pick Jonathan Lawan's forms. With details in page 19. Nigeria, others debt relief requests $650 billion loan at advanced stage. This is from the federal government. And federal government monthly debt servicing jumps to $101 million. This is a CBN report. The big story on presidential bid, INEC, CBN partnership under threat over Emefiele's APC membership. Commission to review CBN's role may move ballot papers from banks' vault. CBN can't be trusted with sensitive materials under Emefiele, and this is from MBA and CSOs. No fear over Apex Bank government presidential bid, ex-INEC commissioner. An ASU strike, student protest in Lagos, Benin vow to storm National Assembly and airports. And the picture story on the front page of the Punch, we see students protesting, and there's some placard being raised with some write-up saying federal government stop playing politics with our educational system. End ASU strike now. And if you have money for election forms, you can fund education, and this is the truth. If you have money for the forms, the election forms, then you can fund education. And we see that all those people who are buying this form, you see that they say a friend bought it for me. Some individuals, some groups are buying this for me. Just in Zamfara State, we see that some students cannot even go for the wire because they've not paid their school fees. And we know that from this Zamfara State, a businessman was the one who bought this form for Tinubu. He single-handedly bought the form for Tinubu. Why can't you look at the educational sector? The futures of tomorrow, we keep on saying the youths are the future of tomorrow, but when the education is taken out from them, when this rights and privilege are taken from them, how can they be the future of tomorrow? Help these people. We see that if you can buy a purchase of 100 million naira form, then why can't you help these people? Register them for all this WAEC. You see people doing all these things. I keep on saying, if you want, you mean the best for this country, you mean the best for the future of tomorrow, you can do something about this thing. People single-handedly can even do something about all this educational sector, the collapse in our health sector, the collapse in our transportation sector. But you see that they're not just worried about all these things, all this politics. They're trying to invest their money in this politics because of what they stand to gain in the later days. But just like what Peter Obi have said, if it fails, you will be affected someday, sometime in the failure. And still on the Punch newspaper, Buhari activates $19 billion climate pledge, seeks AFDB and World Bank support. Baptist president begs abductors to release Bethel students. Details can be found in page 7. And federal government GSM operators to meet over 40% tariff hike. Tinubu Atiku lobbies delegate, promise to tackle nation's disunity. And on NYSC controversy, Kwara Poly blames hackers, imposters declared wanted. Abducted train passengers' families seeks government intervention. And that's all on the Punch newspaper. But before we move to next papers, we'll be right back. When we return, we'll still continue with the paper review from the dailies this morning. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us from the Dailies on Equa Television. Our phone lines are open and displayed on your screen, and we're live on Facebook. Do well to drop your comments on stories that interest you, and as well call us to air your views on stories that interest you. We'll move to our next paper, Sele.
Yes, take a look at the Punch, the Blueprint newspaper. ASU extend the strike by 3 months. Federal government begs union. With the rider, varsity teachers want demand satisfactory address. Reopen varsities in the national interest. This is coming from the NYCN. And the scream story here as Fulani Almajiri group picks the presidential forms for Jonathan. Lawan joins Badaru Yerima to boost the North candidacy in APC primaries. The writer following this big story here say ex-president gave boost to Nomiki education. This is coming from supporters. Resigned to contest, court tells Emefele Silva that picks form. APC most sought after party to beat in 2023. This is calling from Fayemi. I'm the most prepared to lead Nigeria, Uzibanjo tells speakers. Adamawa Taraba APC delegate endorsed Tinubu. Fuel scarcity bites harder. Commuters, motorists stranded in Abuja with the rider. Food, fuel, fertilizer price now triple in Nigeria. This is coming from Action Aid. And so you really tell if fuel is not there, food is not there, fertilizer is very high. Now tell me, what does the common man have? It's already rainy season. We're expecting to have fertilizer at a very cheap price, subsidized price, so that they'll be able to farm and have something to eat. But presently we're going through insecurity, so farmers are even scared to go to their farms, except you just use your backyard or your compound in the house to farm. And that's why we said we'll be going to food crisis. Now the fuel scarcity is biting harder because it just started with Abuja, Lagos, and Kano, and it's spreading to other states. It's just a matter of time before it gets to the 36 state. And I said this yesterday. Let's do something about this. I mean, when the Ip man is telling us that we should prepare for the worst, this is not a story we want to read. I mean, you're supposed to own up to your responsibility and say, what can I do to see that we fix that sector, that it doesn't get to that point where there'll be no fuel, where we'll be going through fuel scarcity in the nation. We said this here, why don't we fix our refineries? We keep recording issues of illegal mining of crude oil. At the end of the day, we lost life as a result of that. And so many things are not even working right presently. Just take a look at the picture story here on the Blueprint. You could see the queue that is actually getting. So I just hope that we'll actually look into this thing. Let's not just fold our arms and put our eyes on just the 2023 election. Yes, it's important, but also there are other issues that need to be tackled presently, because the students are at home, there is no food, there is no fuel, fertilizer you cannot even access. Then what do you have? At the end of the day, we get hungry, and it will be a sad one where you want to leave the common man hungry. So when you give him something little, you buy his voice, buy his vote. I mean, the generation to come will not forgive you for that. There will be blood on your head. So I just hope that we'll look into issues like this and see how we can provide solutions to them. Other stories still on the Blueprint. Internet fraudster backs 2-year jail in Benin. NPC to conduct trial consensus in June. And we have the post-COVID-19 recovery in Africa requires collective effort. This is coming from Buhari. The 36 levies taxes hanging on MTN, Glo, Airtel, and others. This is coming from Alton. Group decries. Okay, let me take the next story. Expert provides solution as Nigeria inflation rate hits to 7-month high. And still on the Abuja Kaduna train attack, victims' family cautioned the NRC not to resume service. And detail of that story can be found on page 24 of the Blueprint newspaper. And that's all on the Blueprint newspaper.
Thank you, Sally. Moving to the Vanguard newspaper, Nigerians need courageous leaders to overcome challenges. This is coming from Bukola Saraki. And still on Bamishe's death, a witness is saying Bamishe was raped by a BRT driver. Train attack, don't resume services until our loved ones are rescued. This is coming from family members. The federal government considers BRICS report on renegotiation committee. SEC moves to fully digitize capital market operations. And on 2023 presidency, why I won't resign now, CBN Governor Emefiele tells court. Aviation fuel airlines operators meet reps leadership to buy product at 480 naira per litre. And bandits kill 8, abduct many, set conditions for peace in Sokoto villages. Methodist Church parents, students kick against ASU continued strike, and politicians want to turn our children to thugs. This is coming from Methodist Church. Public varsities on deathbed. This is from parents and students as ASU rolls over strike by 12 weeks. Students block Benin Airport's gates. And on Ebola, federal government to give posthumous award to Dr. Ameyo Adadevo on Thursday. And we have a picture story here. Saraki visits Obasanjo and still on talks about his presidential ambition. He has met with the former president, that's Olusegun Obasanjo, talking about his aspiration come 2023. And that's all on the Vanguard newspaper.
A look at the Nation newspaper. Petrol scarcity worsen in Abuja, and NPC 2.5 billion litres in stock. Sokoto Zamfara failed to register pupils for WAEC, and detail can be found on page 29. And varsity polls and others get the third fund intervention fund. Oyo reintroduce history in school curriculum, and I think I really love the fact that history is back, because when it was actually taken out of the curriculum, we are deriving the students of knowing what history actually have. When you have history, then you'll be able to know how you can match the history with the present and know what the future will entail. So I think this is the right step in the right direction. Families of the kidnapped train passengers seek rescue of their loved ones. You can see a picture of some mothers, wives, and daughters actually crying. So I just hope we will look into bringing their loved ones back to them. Strike extension, students slam ASU and federal government. Protest in Lagos. And a big story here, Jonathan, I didn't authorize group to obtain APC form. With the rider Buhari's Jonathan 8 disagree. Lawan Silva Ayade picks form. Court to rule on Emefiele's request. And we have the broadcaster arranged for sharing Christ-Lion pupils take the sex tape. You can look up that story on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. We can also have a picture story where we can see some construction going on there. So you can do well to get the Nation newspaper, read any of the stories that's of interest to you.
Thank you, Sally. On Al Jazeera, Nigeria, ASU, federal government face-off worsens. Union extends strike by 3 months. The big story says defection looms ahead. APC primaries. Finally, Jonathan picks APC presidential forms. Sales of forms close today. Details can be found in page 24, and mixed reactions trail federal government duty on recharge cards. On armed procurement loot, BMO mocks IU over return of 405 million naira, while FCTA to tackle open defecation with 10,000 public toilets. On presidential race, court didn't restrain Emefiele, an associate of the governor. Central Bank of Nigeria CBN Comrade Balarabe Issa has described as gross representation reports that a federal high court in Abuja, presided over by Justice Ahmed Mohammed, has refused Godwin Emefiele's request to restrain the Independent National Electoral Commission and the Attorney General of the Federation, AGF Abubakar Malami, from stopping the presidential hopeful's bid. Issa, in a reaction, said rather The court, among other things, has rumored the INEC and the AGF to appear before it on May 12 to show cause on why status quo and the situation as it existed before the war should not be granted. And this has to do with the Emefiele's bid and also the position he's occupying in INEC. And we hope and put our fingers crossed that May 12th, the final hearing will be done in the court. In Zeribe came, saw and conquered, say his brother, and no WAEC candidate from Sokoto, Zamfara government schools. This is coming from WAEC. Police confirm abduction of Catholic priest in Akwa Ibom. And we have few picture stories on the front page of the Al Jazeera Nigeria. Do well to get to look out for stories that interest you.
Look at the Nigerian Tribal. Families of trained victims under captivity protests in Kaduna. With the rider, absence of dad makes life difficult, says 11-year-old son. Bridging cost logistics cost of fuel scarcity. This is coming from marketers, with the rider saying we have 2.5 billion liters of petrol in stock. This is NNPC saying blames the scarcity on the long public holidays, increased purchase. Fuel queue resurface in Niger, Kwara, Sokoto, and Abuja. We can read detail of that on page 14. And on the big story, race for the APC presidential ticket. Fulani group pays for Jonathan's form. Emefiele confirms ambition. With the rider, Senate President Lawan Temperance Silva joins the race. CBN governor wants the court to make him remain in office and run for presidency. Applies for order of status code anti-bellum against INEC. This is coming from the AGF. Court turns down request summon defectants to appear May 12th. And CBN Banking Act forbid Emefiele from running. This is coming from Falana. And we have he must resign as the CBN governor, Ajulu, and others. And detail of that can be found on page 413 and also on page 23. And we have political class unite to make power, not to save Nigeria. This comes from Cleric. We have Awolowo Dosumo urges clerk to continue to pray for Awolowo's family. Fayemi names Ekiti Civil Center after Awolowo. Anger as ASU extends strike by another 3 months. Action regrettable. This is coming from the federal government. TED Fund disperses direct intervention funds. Public varsities get 642 million naira each. Poly 396 million naira each, and COEs 447 million naira each. ASUP to embark on nationwide strike tomorrow. Detail of that can be found on page 26 and 27. Sit at home affect UTME in the southeast. And the last story here, Sokoto Zamfara public schools have no candidates for the May-June WAEC. We have a picture story here, so you can do well to get the Nigerian Tribune and need any of the stories that is of interest to you.
Thank you, Stella. Moving to Daily Trust newspaper, the NNPC is saying on aviation fuel, airlines operators to get 3 months supply at 480 naira per litre. Confusion as Jonathan rejects APC presidential forms, joined ruling party in 2021. Ex-president did not authorize purchase. This is coming from his spokesman. Northern governors paid for forms. Mieti Allah denies involvement. And Silva Ayade Lawan picks form. Court declines Emefiele's request, summons INEC and AGF. Students threaten showdown as ASU extends strike by 3 months. Man rapes Facebook friend, threatens to release nude pictures. NATO demands compensation for truck burnt in Anambra, while Abuja Kaduna train attacks, victims' families seek negotiation with terrorists. And that's all on the Daily Trust newspaper.
Let's take a look at the world of business from national economy. Flight disruption ends as aviation workers suspend the warning strike. Detail of that can be found on page 4. The Aviation Workers Union have called off their 2-day warning strike that led to shutting down of the airspace over negotiating conditions of service and others sundry issues neglected for 9 years. The National Union of the Air Transport Employees, Association of Nigeria Aviation Professionals, as well as the Amalgamated Union of the Public Corporation Civil Servant Technical and Recreational Service Employers on Friday said all operations at the Nigerian Airspace Management Agency as well as the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authorities will be grounded with that of the Nigerian College of Aviation College. You can read more of that on page 4. And the big story here, federal government telcos disagree over the new 5% duty on recharge cards. And the rider following that, multiple taxes levy not good for sector. This is coming from operators. And the new tax will boost government revenue. This is coming from the CITN. Well, you can read more of that on page 4 too. I have federal government eyes Europe gas market with Nigerian Morocco pipelines. Fuel scarcity caused by low loadouts at depots. This is coming from the NNPC. And BUA Food acquires shipping vessel to augment sugar export. We also have a picture story here. You can do well to get the national economy and read any of the story that is of interest to you.
And on Business Standard, which is a foreign paper, Taka losing more value as global currency markets volatility persists. Dollar hits 2-decade high, Indian rupee falls record low. And edible oil traders betrayed government trust. This is from Tipu Munshi, while total national debt increasing at faster rates than GDP. Not satisfied with Dakar's airport services. So if you're not satisfied with services, you have to air your views. And we can see that in foreign nations, when they are not satisfied with services, they air their views rather, or they go out to protest. But we see that the reverse is the case in our country. When you protest, you are seen as an enemy of the country. But if you don't want people to protest, if you don't want people to air their views, then the right things should be done the right way. That's all on Business Standard.
Let's take a look at The Guardian. Federal government student kick as ASU extends strike. Third form begins disbursement. Detail can be found on page 4. Sit-at-home order stalls schools resumption in Imo. And the Southeast is ready to produce President of Nigeria, says Uzodinma. Nigeria confirmed outbreak of monkeypox with 558 cases and 8 are dead. And I think we should not just fold our arms. We should swift into action as quick as possible before it will spread to other states. That was, I think, this is the right step in the right direction. It actually raises the fact that our health sector is falling. So I think we need to look into that issue. And the big story here, which is on 2023 presidency, INEC to severe CBN tied as Emefiele seek court notes with the rider. Court invites INEC, AGF before hearing Emefiele's restraining order on presidential ambition. And on INEC, Emefiele's ambition will have implication for sensitive election material storage at the CBN. Why CBN governor is not qualified to run. This is coming from Falana and Amidi. And we have the HCSF memo post CBN chief inquiry time. The picture story here, we can see still on the ASU, if you have money for the election form, you can fund the education. And this is still under the hashtag #ASU strike. Rivers PDP Guba aspirant Dagugo to remain in custody till May 23rd. And Osinbajo defined consultation as Saraki denounces part-time presidency. Lagos Task Force cleared Toyota Road once against indiscriminate parking. Jonathan Lawan Silva add more twists suspend to the APC race. And Christina Gombe divided over Tinubu Osinbajo as IM pledges security and jobs. And the last story here, which is families of the kidnapped trained passengers once Amechi sack You can read more of that on page 5 of the Guardian newspaper.
Thank you, Sele, for doing this. And this is a wrap, and this is how far we can go on the program this morning. As we celebrate World Family Day, let's preach peace and encourage unity and love among family members. Thanks for watching and have a blessed day.